I'm glad that we do not have a lot of protocol here, so I do not have to, to call out a lot of names, but it's really a privilege to be here. And I would like to, first of all, bring you some greetings from the Director General of the United Nations Office at Nairobi, Ambassador Salawat Zaude, who was supposed to be here, but due to unavoidable circumstances, she's had to go and work on some very important and urgent issues. So she has sent me also to represent her in the same way that I was going to represent UN Women. And I also bring you greetings from the UN family. I can see Janet Machario sitting there and my colleagues at UN Women. We are so privileged to be part of this meeting. And I am also privileged to be one welcoming you to this timeless conference entitled Heals. This Women Leaders Conference is very timely indeed, and I would like to congratulate Ms. June Nyakan, or Nyakan as she would prefer to call her, her team as timeless and magnificent, and all the partners that are here for conceptualizing and organizing this platform. I see a great opportunity for us to openly and critically address those issues that have kept the woman of Africa in the lowest position on earth, tainted with powerlessness, poverty, pain, and many other P's, that you can possibly imagine. But we shouldn't be gloomy, because we also know that the African woman just needs to be unleashed, because she does have the potential and the power. I believe that the time for a deeper reflection and radical action to raise African women to their rightful place in society is now. We have, over the centuries, invested a lot in addressing the symptoms, through projects. We have, I don't know why Africa, the whole continent, is a projectized continent. Everything requires a project. And yet what we need to do is just to change the way we think, the way we make decisions, the choices we make, and so on. We've had many microcredit activities, campaigns, but I still need to change in the situation of women in our continent. We are at a very strategic moment when Africa is rising. Africa has sustained economic growth rates of 5% over the past, global economic and financial crisis. And this is almost double the global average growth of 3%. This continent is becoming an investment hub. It's attracting foreign investment up to 80 billion a year. We hold 30% of the planet's mineral reserves. I will not go into the details. And also 60% of arable land that is unutilized is here in Africa. So Africa actually is the place to be at the moment. There are great prospects in agriculture, the extractive industry, infrastructure, energy, and a growing service industry. Last year, the African Union celebrated 50 years of existence. This is a season of jubilee that should signify a turning point to give the next generation new hope for a better continent. We have also a powerful vision, 2063, the vision of African Union 2063, of an integrated, that is a united, peaceful and prosperous continent, driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. But the critical question is, will Africa sustain its growth? Will Africa reach its vision and fulfill its destiny of a powerful global force if more than half of its people that is the women and the young people, if their potential is not fully harnessed. Can the continent also, it's not just about unleashing the potential, but can the continent maintain a level of credibility in the global arena when it is holding 30% of the entire world's poor, the majority of whom again are women? There are some things I have failed to understand and hope you can help me address this dilemma. Why do we keep women in the lowest possible position in the home, in the schools, and in the public arena? Yes, we cannot even begin to walk, begin to eat, or learn to reason and speak without a woman. Why do we continue to waste much needed resources because of this gender gap? A recent study of UN Women and the UN Economic Commission for Africa found that in 5 countries, the cost of violence against women amounts to 1 to 3% of GDP. It's a huge cost. If Kenya is growing at, is it 5%? 6%. Imagine, you'll be growing 8%. There was no violence against women. There's a potential there, And another study also indicated that annual economic losses due to gender gaps in effective labor would exceed $255 billion in Africa. Why is it that when you ask a policymaker or a company to invest in women's leadership, they proudly tell you that, oh, this company is full of women? When you go into the company to see, the women are always at the bottom. And then they proudly tell you, oh, but we have 2 managers, and they're very good women. I'm sorry, Nyakan, I'm going to bring this up. I wasn't going to ask this question, but the same people who are making such decisions, if you say something bad about his mother or sister, if you say that your mother is stupid, you get a fist in your face, right? So where is this paradox? At the same time, the men that are making decisions are very close to the women in their lives, but they make decisions that keep women in the lowest possible positions. Until last year, Africa boasted 3 presidents. We have a delegation from Malawi here, including a paramount chief. Hello, it's very good to have you. But we lost, we lost one of the presidents. We have only 22% representation in parliament in Africa. Only 22%. Why is it that women do not vote for other women? Do we also undervalue ourselves? Because we need healing. As Nyakan would say, we need to heal. Women of Africa, are we waiting for someone to give us space to lead? We are already halfway through the decade for women in Africa. It started in 2010. It's going to end in 2020. The African heads of state have given us a whole decade. And we are waiting, we are complaining policies are not being implemented. Who is going to implement those policies? And then 2015 has been declared by the heads of state in addition to the decade for women. 2015 has been declared as the year for the empowerment of women towards Agenda 2063, meaning that they can see that the empowerment of women will enable Africa to reach its Agenda 2063. But how then can the woman of Africa rise up and give her energy
ingenuity, and leadership, you know, and ability to build her family, her community, and her nation, you know, when she's battered, excluded from making decisions that affect her life and that of her family. And on the other hand, do we expect that Africa will fulfill its destiny when half of its population is disempowered? I mean, on the one hand, we are asking, you know, should we wait for the space? On the other hand, that space needs to be there. But in my view, it is very clear that women themselves must rise up, not necessarily to fight for the spaces, the little spaces that exist, but to begin to create new spaces that will benefit all. We have been brought up to think that resources are limited, that spaces are limited. It's a mindset. There's a lot out there that we haven't yet explored, and I am challenging all of you who are here to begin to think outside the box, to create those new spaces or non-traditional means of taking up existing spaces as women leaders. It is when women rise up and begin to equally contribute to and benefit from the political, economic, social, and cultural development in Africa will we become a global leader as a continent. African women have, in the past 2 years, described the kind of Africa they want to see. You know, I just want to add my voice to that, that women of Africa want to live in a peaceful continent in which there are no widows as a result of senseless killings and war, a continent in which they are not sexually abused and violated, and in which suffering is not caused by self-interest and a few corrupt and power-hungry leaders. Instead, they want to be a force that builds cohesive and peaceful societies that build generations of prosperity and welfare for all. We talk about women, men, children of all ethnicities, ages, and locations. We want an Africa which is a common and equitable marketplace, where laws of the market are not manipulated, but shaped to permit entry and benefit for all. A continent where women are empowered to transform their subsistence farms to businesses that supply food, income, and enable them to create wealth, assets, and begin to move into business leadership. Women want to be part and parcel of the key drivers for growth in the African economy, and I've mentioned some of those sectors already. African women want to be recognized not as vulnerable members of society in need of charity, but as a formidable force that needs to be released, empowered, and massively invested in to fulfill their potential, to drive growth, development, and food security to phenomenal levels. Then we have the young women of Africa. They want to be considered not just as leaders of tomorrow, but leaders today, with the ability to champion innovations in technology, agriculture, industry, social welfare. You know, investing in youth today means a great future for us all. We have seen a lot of innovations coming from the young people, but we still talk about them as the leaders of tomorrow. And we want an Africa where gender equality and women's empowerment is recognized as an important agenda for all, not just for women. We are tired of just inclusion, mainstreaming, integrating. We are central, part of society. And let's begin to think, plan in that manner. We also want men in Africa to take up this agenda. Dr. Archer, our paramount chief over there, we want men to take up this agenda as their own. And during this conference, we will have a session, Men Looking In, which UN Women, in UN Women we call he for she. You know, this is a solidarity movement for gender equality developed by UN Women to engage boys and men as advocates and agents of change for the achievement of gender equality and women's rights. And this campaign started in September last year. It was launched in Kenya by His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, and it has been launched in several other countries around the world. And this, during this conference, we want to have an evening to really bring awareness around that campaign. Now, as we seek to empower women into leadership, we must also move into a new paradigm that recognizes that investing in women is not just the right thing to do, but it is making economic sense. We also want to invite you during this conference to come up with very practical solutions that we can undertake with existing resources to shift our thinking and transform the way we govern, the way we do business, with the way we socialize, to bring women to their rightful place as co-drivers of Africa's transformation. Africa needs a different breed of leaders, you know, who can move beyond being good leaders to transformative leaders. We need leaders who are able to go beyond themselves, the I, me, and myself, which is a very limited arena, as you can see, who have guts to counsel exploitative relations, who are willing to put power, control, and competition aside and embrace cooperation, collaboration, good relationships, who are willing to fully grasp the enormous calling of this season of Jubilee for Africa. I won't go through all of it because of time, but this is a season where Africa needs to begin to turn around, you know, to invest in its people, to bring light to the world through innovation, you know, and to begin to take leadership in the global economy. And when the African Union Commissioner was, Madame Zuma was reading her email of the future, she saw Africa in the Security Council, you know, and she saw Swahili as the continental language. And in fact, when she spoke in January this year at the AU Summit, the first 10 minutes she spoke in Swahili, which was a very interesting perspective. I also want to mention that in searching for such leadership, UN Women, in partnership with Kenyatta University, has established the Africa Center for Transformational and Inclusive Leadership, which aims to raise a critical mass of transformational women leaders, including young women in all spheres. And we will introduce it later on in this conference. So it is our expectation that from this conference, we will come out with innovative strategies that will enable us to achieve and maintain gender parity in leadership, raise female transformational leaders that are much needed to ensure a positive and inclusive growth path in this age of significant challenge and complexity, overcome societal, structural, and personal barriers to women's leadership. In conclusion, I know I've probably spoken too much. I believe that it is time for us to cease taking gender equality and women's empowerment and women's leadership as a side issue. You know, we need to bring it to the center, you know, or as central to the ability of our countries and our continent to prosper, to enjoy peace, to unite, and ensure that the season of Jubilee benefits all. For Africa to represent a dynamic force in the global arena, we must be credible not just in the way we grow economically, but in the way we value and empower our people. It is my hope that we do not need to wait until 2063 to celebrate a truly transformed Africa. Let us use this platform to dig deep, reflect, and come up with solutions that will empower us to ensure that every woman, girl, and boy in Africa will reach their destiny as the continent also rises into a credible and dynamic force in the global arena. Thank you very much.